The two Ohio Titans in the Cedar Fair chain go head-to-head in today's matchup. Kings Island in Mason, Ohio, and Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Both are absolutely great parks, but which is better? I'm Coaster Directed. Let's find out. First up, we have the park's aerodynamics looping coasters. Corkscrew being a true classic, which is with its absolutely beautiful twin corkscrews over the midway. Vortex also is an eye-catcher, being relatively out in the open, and the up-close batwing element. Both are rather rough and often a headbanger. Corkscrew has a very short and simple layout, and in my opinion, is more exciting to sit under the corkscrews than to actually ride. Vortex, on the other hand, is usually worth the ride. The layout's rather good, and although the dual corkscrews aren't the best, it's still rather fun. The thing that I think is the best about Vortex is the amazing heavenly airtime towards the back of the train on the first drop. So, with that, Vortex sucks up the first point. Next up, we have the Aero Mine Trains. Both are rather tame rides aimed more for children or families, but I would have to give the edge to Adventure Express, which has a slightly better layout than Cedar Creek Mine Ride, as well as very good theming for a seasonal park. It's very Indiana Jones-esque and fits perfectly for a mine train. However, Adventure Express has a very anticlimactic ending where Cedar Creek Mine Ride has a very nice helix at the end. Adventure Express gets the second point. Two family coasters with the same name, Woodstock Express, one being steel, one being wood. Both are great for families with children who aren't ready to tackle the other rides. Overall, Kings Island is getting a bit rough, where I found Cedar Point's very smooth, with the only hindrance being the ride-offs having to personally unlock the seatbelts. That was a little weird, especially if you're an older person trying to get the credit like that's kind of embarrassing. But so I will conclude this one with a tie, earning both parks a point. Next up, we have two large wooden coasters in the park. The Beast, an absolute classic that provides amazing rides, especially in the dark versus... Oh wait, there's no point trying to make any form of an argument for this one. 2 points for Kings Island! In the next matchup, we have the Racer versus Gemini. Racer is credited with sparking the coaster renaissance, but it's getting quite rough now. Gemini was the tallest when created and is still an absolutely great ride. I found it very smooth, and yes, I know it's not a wooden coaster, it's a steel coaster, and provided great airtime at times. So the point will be going to the Gemini. We have the Kiddy coasters up next. Great Pumpkin Coaster versus Junior Gemini. I mean, Wilderness Run. Whatever, nothing. Great Pumpkin Coaster is one of the most generic coasters you can get. I mean, seriously, I think his model can start to challenge Vekoma and clones. Wilderness Run is actually quite unique due to the fact it was Intamin's very first coaster, and overall has better stats and a better layout than Great Pumpkin Coaster. So half a point will go to the point. So next we have the inverted shuttle coasters, Invertigo being an Invertigo model boomerang. Yeah, redundant, just a bit. And Wicked Twister being the tallest and fastest Intamin impulse coaster, one of two that I have ridden. Overall, Wicked Twister provides a much better ride, it's not nearly as rough, and provides a great view of the beach and lake. Invertigo, on the other hand, I hope you like parking lot. 1 point goes to Cedar Point. So we have another aero coaster matchup. Iron Dragon versus the Bat. The Bat is a very short coaster, but is an absolute blast the entire time and does not let up. It keeps on booking it until the brake run, whereas Iron Dragon takes it slow and doesn't really pick up speed until the finale. Iron Dragon was honestly my biggest disappointment at Cedar Point. The ride-ops were the only ones I would complain about in the park, and the ride was boring and awkward. So I will be giving the points to Kings Island. The inverted coasters are up next, and both provide absolutely great rides. Both Banshee and Raptor pack in the force department and are really must rides at the park. However, in my personal opinion, Banshee is better in nearly every aspect than Raptor, from its inversions to its theming to its overall layout. It's not better by a lot, but it definitely adds up. So Banshee will be getting 2 points. Currently, Kings Island is actually crushing Cedar Point. Next up, we have the launch coasters. Flight of Fear was the first LIM launch coaster, along with its exact twin at the same name. over at King's Dominion, whereas Maverick is standing proof that bigger isn't always better. The drop is fantastic, and the layout is absolutely crazy and full of ejector airtime. The launch is insane as well, and it feels like it's a horse trying its hardest to throw you off. If you have ridden this beauty of a coaster, you can understand why. So 2 points will go to my number 2 coaster. Flying versus wings. We have a Vekoma flying coaster taking on Cedar Point's newest coaster. I love flying coasters, but I cannot argue that Gatekeeper provides a much better ride. It is very thrilling and is even more gorgeous in person than any picture. I think that Firehawk is a good ride, but I cannot overlook its flaws. The biggest being its awful capacity, and Gatekeeper chews through people. What seals the deal here is the front seat ride on Gatekeeper. You see everything. You feel so free and shows the true potential of wing riders. And with that wing over drop, you roll through that so slow in the front. It's actually pretty scary. Our final matchup is between the oldest hypercoaster and one of the newest ones. Diamondback provides a butter smooth ride with amazing floater airtime, and it allows for much more open feeling than Magnum because of its stadium style seats. Magnum is a rough ejector machine. This thing is trying to throw you straight into Lake Erie. Although I love Magnum, I'm gonna have to give this to Diamondback. Kings Island has 2 more coasters left in its lineup, one being Flying Ace and a Vekoma family suspended coaster, and Backlot Stunt Coaster, a decent launch family coaster by Premier Rides. And it has some good theming. Both will be earning the park 1 point. Sorry for the mess on this page, but Cedar Point was keeping all its hard hitters until the very end. They currently have 4 extra coasters with another on its way. Blue Streak, the park's oldest standing coaster, which will get 1 point. Rougarou converted stand-up to its current floorlessness, which will be getting 2 points. Valraven, the dive coaster, Cedar Point will be getting next year, will be getting 2 as well, with Millennium Force and Dragster both getting 3. And with that, Cedar Point has skyrocketed to the lead. Both Husk Giant Frisbees are located at these parks, and none have a true definitive advantage. Max Air is a grand total of 3 feet taller, and there is next to no difference ride experience-wise. I could not tell the difference if I was held at gunpoint, so both parks will be getting a point for this. We have the Drop Tower face-off next, with Power Tower, a 4-tower S&S complex going against Kings Island's Drop Tower Scream Zone, except literally everyone still calls it Drop Zone. Although Power Tower allows for both being launched up and being dropped, Drop Tower Scream Zone, see, that sounds stupid, has a much more forceful drop, and is a lot scarier of an experience like much of its Intamin brethren. So that 1.5 will go to Drop Tower. Up next, we have the leftover thrill rides. Both parks have a Windseeker, which are exactly the same stat-wise and provide great views of the park. I personally am no longer much of a fan of Windseekers due to Cedar Points. They ran it for the last time of the day, and while I was on due to excessive winds, and boy, it was actually really scary. And Cedar Point is also home to one of my favorite thrill rides, the S&S Scream and Swing Skyhawk. So Kings Island will be receiving 1 point, and Cedar Point will get 2. Next is the family rides. This one is an absolute blowout with Cedar Point having over double the amount of family rides that Kings Island has. Kings Island really needs to step up its game, but it's really hard to compete with the park that has the most rides in the world. So obviously, the points will be going to Cedar Point. Easing into the final stretch, we have the operations. Both parks are some of the best when it comes to operations, but I feel Cedar Point was consistently better when it came to them, especially on rides such as Maverick, Millennium Force, and Gatekeeper. I went on one of the biggest off days of the year for them, and the entire park was running full capacity. Kings Island is good on a few coasters, that being the Beast and very much so on the Banshee, but often are not so great when it comes to Diamondback. So Cedar Point takes this category. Once again, we are back at the dreaded category price. Overall, Kings Island is much cheaper, with the Gold Pass for next year being $30 cheaper, and it includes free parking. And overall, the day tickets are about $15 to $20 more at Cedar Point. So Kings Island will finally be taking another point. Finally, we have the park's appearance. This one is very easy. This is a very easy debate. Kings Island is pretty clean and nicely landscaped, but it cannot compare to Cedar Point's gorgeous location on Lake Erie. The mile-long beach on the Gatekeeper side is just gorgeous, and the park is very clean and organized. Overall, Cedar Point absolutely sweeps up this category, securing its victory. Winning by a grand total of 8 points is Cedar Point. Congratulations. Both are fantastic parks, but when it comes down to it, Cedar Point overall is much better than Kings Island. And with that, Cedar Point will be advancing to the semifinals. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, keep coasting.